Hi everyone, we are Group 2 for Animals in Society for the Fall Semester 2025, Section 6. Our group includes Ayla Cabrera, which is me, Stephanie Lopez, and Kashish Sharma. While industrial-scale farming has allowed us to feed millions efficiently, it is important to take a closer look at the cost behind that efficiency. Today, our presentation focuses on the question, how does industrial-scale factory farming compare to alternative farming methods in terms of animal welfare? Our goal is to examine the concerns that come with industrial farming, particularly around ethical treatments of animals, environmental impact, and the broader cultural effects. Unlike smaller pasture-based or free-range systems, industrial farms often prioritize speed and profit over natural behaviors, which can create stressful living conditions for animals. We'll also explore how these practices affect society and the environment, from public health risks associated with antibiotics and growth hormones to greenhouse gas emissions, waste management, and loss of biodiversity caused by monocultures for feed production. By the end of this presentation, we hope to provide a clear picture of why alternative scale farming methods can offer more sustainable and humane approaches to producing food. With that in mind, let's begin by looking at the main concerns about animal welfare under industrial farming. The other side of industrial farming brings up concerns that are difficult to ignore. One of the biggest issues is animal welfare. Many industrial facilities prioritize efficiency, which can result in overcrowded barns or cages, limited movement, and stressful living conditions. Animals in these environments may not have the space or the stimulation that they need to engage in their natural behaviors. Another major concern is the use of antibiotics and growth hormones. These are often used to speed up growth or prevent disease in crowded environments, but they can potentially impact both animal and human health. Overuse of antibiotics, for example, contributes to antibiotic-resistant bacteria, which is a growing public health risk. There is also the ethical question of how we view animals. In many industrial systems, animals are treated more like units of production and commodities than sentient beings capable of experiencing discomfort or emotion. This raises moral questions about whether efficiency should outweigh human treatment. In contrast, alternative farming methods, such as pasture-raised or free-range systems, focus on giving animals more natural, spacious environments. These methods allow for behaviors like grazing, roaming, and social interaction. So while industrial farming accomplishes a lot, it also introduces serious ethical and welfare concerns that are increasingly important in society.
Next slide is about history and background. Another important part of the background of industrial farming starts during the Green Revolution, which happened between the 1940s and 1960s. This was a time when farmers began using stronger seeds, better tools, and new technologies so they could grow more food on less land. As this movement spread, small farms often turned into very large operations called CAFOs, or concentrated animal feeding operations. These places made it possible to raise thousands of animals in one area. The goal was to produce food as efficiently as possible, but this also meant animals had less space and fewer natural behaviors. As this system became more common around the world, it created a new way of farming that focused more on production and less on traditional farming lifestyles. Even though it increased the amount of food availability, it also brought up questions about animal welfare, overcrowding, and the effects on the environment. Let's talk about ethical concerns. Ethical concerns in industrial farming focus on making sure animals are treated humanely from the beginning of their lives till the end. One concern is that animals in large facilities may not have enough room to move or actually act naturally. This can lead people to question whether the system truly supports animal welfare and well being. To help with this, many modern farms use humane slaughter methods, like stunning, so animals don't suffer. Technology also helps farmers monitor health so they can prevent illness instead of reacting after an animal is already sick. On the other hand, supporters say industrial farming helps feed billions of people and can do so safely if strict rules are followed. The debate continues because people want healthy food, but they also want animals to be treated with fairness and respect. These concerns encourage farms to keep improving their practices day by day.
My name is Ayla, and I'll first be focusing on the cultural and sociological impact. Industrial farming also influences culture and society in many ways that aren't always positive. One major concern is that it can create a disconnect between people and their food sources. Many consumers have little idea of where their food comes from or what conditions the animals were raised in. This lack of awareness can make it harder for people to make informed decisions or advocate for better welfare. The industrial model also tends to reinforce profit-driven values. When production speed becomes more important than humane treatment, it shifts cultural attitudes towards viewing animals primarily as commodities. That has long-term impacts on how society thinks about responsibility, ethics, and sustainability. In contrast, small local farms often foster closer community relationships. Farmers markets, local producers, and traditional farming practices help people stay connected to the food system. These experiences can strengthen community engagement and cultural values that industrial systems don't always provide. We've also seen growing public backlash against factory farming in recent years. Many consumers are pushing for higher welfare standards, more transparency, and alternative options like organic or pasture-raised products. This shows that culturally there's a strong desire to shift from fully industrialized systems and toward more ethical and community-oriented approaches. Environmental impact. Industrial farming also has significant environmental consequences. One issue is the concentration of waste. When thousands of animals are kept in a single location, the amount of manure produced can overwhelm the land's ability to absorb it. This can lead to contamination of soil, groundwater, and even nearby rivers or lakes. Greenhouse gas emissions are another major concern. Animals like cows produce methane, and large-scale manure storage releases nitrous oxide, both powerful gases that contribute to climate change. The environmental footprint of industrial livestock production is far bigger than many people realize. Industrial farming also relies heavily on monocultures to produce animal feed, like soy and corn. These monocultures can lead to deforestation, habitat destruction, and loss of biodiversity. Entire ecosystems can be displaced to make room for feed crops. On the other hand, Alternative methods such as regenerative agriculture or rotational grazing are designed to work with the land instead of dominating it. These approaches can improve soil health, increase biodiversity, and reduce environmental damage. So while industrial farming is efficient, it often comes at a high ecological cost.
Beyond the direct impact on animals and land, factory farming introduces significant human health concerns that affect communities and the broader public. First, the immediate neighbors of large farms are exposed to consistently high levels of harmful air pollution, such as ammonia and hydrogen sulfide gases, which can seriously impact their respiratory health. Second, these farms generate massive amounts of animal waste, and when the manure storages leak or overflow, they can contaminate local drinking water sources with harmful pathogens and nitrates, posing a direct threat to public safety. And finally, perhaps the most critical public health concern is the routine use of medically important and antibiotics to prevent disease in overcrowded conditions. This practice drives the development of antibiotic resistant bacteria or superbugs, which can then transfer from animals to humans, making common infections much harder or sometimes impossible to treat. Some current events. There's been legislative action addressing these concerns, especially Representative Alma Adams, Representative Jim McGovern, and Senator Cory Booker introduced a new federal bill called the Industrial Agriculture Conversion Act, the IACA. The core of this proposal legislation is to provide crucial support to farmers who are ready to transition and move away from harmful and inhumane factory farming practices. This bill is a response to the clear challenges posed by the industrial model, as illustrated by the infographic, which highlights how factory farming hurts everyone, from high antibiotics use leading to microbial resistance to manure pollution affecting our soil and water. Furthermore, this legislative effort is highly relevant because the sheer scale of the problem is staggering. In the US alone, animals raised on CAFOs create approximately 885 billion pounds of manure every single year, and none of this waste is treated or checked by any government agency. This slide presents visuals and data that highlight the immense impact of factory farming, which the infographic deems truly toxic. First, looking at the picture of the pig, we see that confining animals in industrial conditions makes these facilities a breeding ground for disease. This is supported by the data showing that these practices result in over 9 billion animals being housed and contributing to public health crises like antimicrobial resistance or superbugs and manure pollution. The crowding also leads to stress and higher levels of illness, which is a major driver of the healthy antibiotic use we just discussed. The industrial model also creates a huge environmental burden in the U.S.
In my informed opinion, industrial farming does succeed in feeding millions efficiently, but the ethical, cultural, and environmental costs are too significant to ignore. We can't overlook the way animals are treated, the environmental damage that occurs, or the disconnect it creates between people and their food. Alternative systems, including small-scale farming, pasture-raised options, and sustainable agriculture, demonstrate that it is possible to produce food in ways that are more humane and environmentally responsible. These methods may not replace industrial farming overnight, but they offer a better long-term vision. As a society, we need to balance efficiency with compassion. Feeding the world is important, but how we feed the world matters just as much. By making thoughtful consumer choices, supporting better welfare standards, and encouraging policies that prioritize sustainability, we can move toward a system that protects both animals and the environment without sacrificing food security. Ultimately, the goal should be a food system that is not only productive, but also ethical, transparent, and sustainable for future generations. Here are references that we used. In summary, industrial farming may be efficient, but it raises serious concerns for animal welfare, the environment, and society. Alternative methods offer more humane and sustainable solutions. Thank you for listening.